What's up, guys? It's Devon here from Neptune Design, and we are going to have a super fun workshop slash live stream slash Q&A session today. Now, the first thing I want to say is don't worry, Pamela will be joining me. I just forgot to send her the link to the stream, so it's all my bad, but she should be with us shortly. Just want to sort my lighting out. And I just want to make sure you guys can hear me fine. So, can you guys hear me okay? Just let me know in the chat. Man, we have got so much to cover today. Cool. Let me do this. Yeah, now I'm on my correct microphone. And yeah, all right. Fantastic. Hey, look who's here.
That is a lot today.
Yeah, super hot. All right, so I'd like to welcome my very special guest today, Pamela Wagner. She
Oh,
is an ex Google Ads employee who's optimized over 3,000 Google Ads account. And she's also spent about $10 million, or even more than $10 million now, probably, on Google Ads. So there is nobody that is more qualified to talk you through how to get cheaper leads for your Google Ads. Now, the first thing that I want to cover over here is we've got a couple of announcements. And the first and most important thing that I want to tell all of you guys is Pam has actually got a new recommendation sheet that she's just launched. She shared it with a couple of members of my community. And what I want to do is I want to hand it over to Pam just to tell us a little bit more about that recommendation sheet, what you can find inside, and where you can get it.
you are so sweet. Thank you so much. So, we found that a lot of people really struggle with the optimization score in Google as well as with the recommendations that Google shows you. And so, what happens is they either end up just like ignoring them while the optimization score keeps dropping, or to keep accepting them. And then there's various side effects. So, like the budget suddenly raises, or we see like a drop in performance, or they didn't even know that they accepted it because there's so many different ones, right? And for us, that's always been pretty straightforward and easy, partially because I used to work at Google. And so we've put all these recommendations together. In fact, it's over 100 recommendations that Google offers you, and will tell you exactly what to do with each single one of them, so that you pretty much can have a 100% optimization score every week, which is incredibly important for Google as well as the performance of your campaigns.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people um they kind of say we say optimization, but we don't really know what optimization means, you know? Yeah, a lot of people just throw around, I'm gonna optimize my account. I'm like, okay, go. What are we gonna optimize? They're like, no, I'm gonna make my ads optimized. I'm like, okay, but like what are you actually going to do? So I think it's very important that when you have a guide, it kind of tells you what to do, what not to do, what to avoid, and what not to avoid. And that's really how you get good at Google Ads.
Very well said. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And all right. So we got MCX saying over here, Pam is an ex Google Ads employee, and that could be a good or it could be a bad thing.
With
I can.
everything in life, it's what you make out of it.
Well, let's do this. We're going to give you guys value on this live stream, and then you get to decide whether this is a bad one or a good Google Ads employee. How about that, MCX? All right, cool. So here's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about being a business owner, not knowing how to get your ads cheaper, right? We're all running Google Ads. We're all spending money on Google Ads, but it's very hard to know where to begin, especially when it feels like the system is rigged, right? Have you ever felt like that? Like you're getting leads and you know that your leads cost, I don't know, $200 or $300. And it feels like because all of your competitors have more money than you, it feels like they're just spending more than you, and this is just your lot in life. It feels like this is just what you have to expect. But there is a better way to run Google Ads, and that's what I want to talk you guys through today on this live stream. We're going to take things nice and slowly. We're going to answer any questions that you have, and most importantly, we're going to make this fun. So we might joke, we might tell a couple of personal stories, But the most important thing that I want all of you guys to know is that all of all of Google Ads is not just a fixed, set in stone game. We've had some clients who've gone from spending a lot of money for leads to spending absolutely almost next to nothing on leads. We've had some clients who were only getting like 16 leads in, and we've managed to increase that to 300 leads, 200 leads, 150 leads, and on the same exact budget as well. So it doesn't always mean that because your leads are a certain price today, that they'll always be that price. Am I right, Pam?
Pretty well said, pretty well said. And things are changing a lot these days.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. All right. So the first thing I want to cover is it sounds like a very basic thing. I just want to give a shout out here in the comments. So Wendy says it's a great thing. She uses her experience to help her. Exactly, Wendy. Thank you so much. She is like, thanks. Wendy gets it. Thank you so much for that comment. And Keenan says, hey, Devon. Hey, Pamela. Hey, Keenan. How are you doing today? It's good that you joined us on this live stream. I hope that you're going to get a lot of good info. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is the cost of a lead, right? Now, a lot of you guys are thinking that, oh, my leads are expensive because I've got the wrong settings, or my leads are expensive because of X or because of Y. But I'm here to tell you that most of the time, your leads are expensive because you are kind of not following the system and kind of not doing the right thing. So I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about, because I'm kind of just dragging out my words, but I want to give you a very solid example, right? I want you to imagine this. Imagine you have a budget of $200 for groceries, right? And I want you to imagine you're going into the grocery store, and I want you to know that every single time that you add something into your shopping trolley, your little basket, that increases whatever the cost of your grocery bill is, right? So that's a very simple concept to understand. Every single time somebody clicks on your ad and they don't buy, that adds to your cost of your lead. Now, all of those clicks, like if I click on it once, twice, 3, 10 times before you get the lead, all of that goes into your cost per lead. So if we look at your cost per lead, it's really just a whole bunch of clicks. And if those clicks are very expensive, you end up with an expensive lead. Ta-da! And if those clicks are really cheap, you end up with a cheap click. So the real question you want to ask yourself is, how can I get my average cost per click lower? Because when you get a cheap average cost per click, automatically the cost of the lead goes down. Pam, is all of that making sense? Did I miss out on anything?
You're so good with these descriptions. Like, it's incredible. I think also what I want people to take into consideration, what's cheap for you might not be cheap for somebody else, right? So I always, when people say, oh, you know, Google Ads is expensive or Meta Ads is expensive or something is cheap, I'm like, I ask them, okay, according to what metric? Like, what are you measuring, right? Like the same when people say, oh, LinkedIn ads is expensive. Well, according to what, right? What's your product or service cost? What's your margin, right? What can you afford to spend on a lead? Like, and that's really going to depend on your situation. And I highly recommend like not paying any attention to industry averages that are published quite frequently, but those are published typically by agencies that only have a very limited number of accounts available, right? Yeah. And so what we also often don't know is how well those accounts are optimized. So as with everything, yes, there can be an average, but you don't have to be average. So your business can be unique.
Exactly. So you got to think about it this way. And I think, Pam, that's a good, important point to bring up. Sometimes your leads are expensive, but if you have a product that or a service that you charge for every single month, like for example, if you're an ad agency and you know you're going to charge the client every single month, then you can afford to have expensive leads, right? Because you're going to be charging the customer every single month. And as long as you don't chase them away after a few months with bad service or not giving them what they need, you should be in a very good place. This is what's called lifetime value of the customer, or lifetime lead value, right? And in some situations, it's a one hit wonder. Like some people, they know they're going to charge somebody $800 for one service, and then that person's going to disappear out of their lives forever. Now, in that case, we don't want to be paying $2,000 to get a lead that's only worth $800, right? Yeah.
I think another example would be a client that we worked with. She had or she still exists. She has a belly dance platform where you can learn belly dancing and other courses. And we ran ads, and the cost per purchase ended up being $25, which is the same as like the monthly subscription that she had back then. And she found that that was expensive. I was like, well, but how long does the average person stay with you? And she was like, well, around a year. I was like, well, you're pretty much paying a 12th of your lifetime value for the customer. So obviously that's a pretty good deal, right? So always make sure you look at, well, how much am I making with this customer over the total of the lifetime? And of course, that there's a big part that depends on you, right? Like your campaigns are not responsible for the lifetime value of your customer. That's something that you as a business owner have to do and invest into, and looking at what you can optimize there in terms of your processes.
So let's say somebody's listening in on this live stream and they say, Pam and Devon, why do you have to make it so complicated? Can't you just give me a figure and tell me I should be paying under $40 per lead, or under $200 per lead, or under $300 per lead? Why can't we just simplify things for them? Like, why do we have to make it so complicated? If you're asking us that question, you have to realize that there's a very big part of this that's unique to your business, right? I have a digital business. My margins are 80%. So I can absorb a lot of advertising costs. So if you come and you try to advertise against me, oh, you better have a lot of money to spend on ads, because I can spend and I can spend and I can spend, and it won't even hurt my bottom line really that much. Other people, like affiliate marketers, maybe even some people in the service space and the handyman, or maybe the electrical space, you maybe only have a small, tiny amount of budget to work with. There's some people that sell steel that tell me that their profit margins on steel are between 4 to 6%. So that's it. 4 to 6%. That's very hard to run a business, and they have to really get very big orders in order to make that work. So this is why it's so hard for us to give you an exact figure. So I want you to know this, and I want you to know that we're not being cryptic and we're not being mysterious. It's literally, we can't give you a number. You have to know what your number is. But what we're going to do is we're going to assume that everyone in the chat is intelligent enough to figure out what their number is. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about. And I know Pam is going to have a lot of tips and tricks for you. But what I want to do is I want to give you guys just a little bit of an example and show you what creates an expensive lead. So what I've got here is, I don't know if you guys can see my screen. Pam, forgive me if this shuts you out. It'll only be momentarily, and you can also talk. So we should be fine. We know you're still here.
I'm still here.
All right, fantastic. All right, so I've got a few campaigns over here. You can see I have a video ad campaign, and what I've got over here is my cost per conversion on here, and you can see my cost per conversion here is super cheap. It's like 62 cents for a lead. If I go to the other video campaign, you can see I'm paying $13 per lead, and I got 5 leads over there. And last but not least, I got a search campaign. This one is the one that's really bothering me. I'm paying like $20 just to get a lead on the search campaign, right? So as you can see, all of these are different. Now, what I want to show you guys is when you set up Google Ads, there is this magical setting that it contributes a lot towards how much you're paying per lead. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through this over here. I'm going to select a search ad, and because what we want to do is we want to give you guys some practical examples over here. I don't want to just be talking and talking and talking and not really show you guys where I'm coming from. Now, here is where most of you guys start going wrong. I won't say you completely go wrong, but here is where you start going wrong. So what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about this section over here. And Pam, I don't want to exclude you forever, my friend. Come back to
Still
me.
here. Still here.
All right, cool. So if you can look on the screen right now, oh man, I'm gonna do this, Pam. Just please
It's
forgive me
okay.
just
Don't
for this
worry
one.
about it.
All right, so in Google Ads, there are only two types of bidding strategies. I know you guys think there are 16 different types of bidding strategies, but there are only two types of bidding strategies. You get manual bidding strategies and you get automated bidding strategies, right? And let me explain to you guys what the difference is. So, everything that you see over here is an automated bidding strategy. And what that means is Google gets to decide how much you pay per click. Now we've discussed why paying so much for a click is important, but Google gets to decide more or less how much you pay for a click, right? Even if you go with maximize clicks, even if you go with the $2 limit, Google still decides which keywords to pay that $2 on, right? So imagine going to that same grocery store, and you know, when you pick up a loaf of bread or milk or something, you get to see the price and you get to decide if it's worth it or if it's not worth it to you. Am I right? You get to decide how much it's worth. Now imagine going into a grocery store with no prices whatsoever and just putting stuff into the shopping trolley and just hoping that you're going to be within budget by the time that you get to the checkout. It's kind of ridiculous for you to expect that. And that's what most of you guys are doing. You're letting Google decide how much you pay for a click. You're not measuring your conversions, and you're just adding stuff to the shopping trolley and you hope that your leads are going to be cheap at the end of the day. So, the most important part that I want you to take from this whole session, we're going to dive in deep, but I want you to be very focused on controlling your costs. Only if you control your costs in Google Ads are you going to be able to control your cost per lead.
So you
Pam?
mean this is perfect for people who like to control things?
Yes, if you're a control freak, then this is perfect for you. Now, I want to know in the comment section who of you guys are secret control freaks, right? So I don't want you to write, I'm a control freak. Just write, just give me a double comma. Let's do that.
Hi,
And
Neil.
Neil, how you doing? Thanks so much for joining us. I think Neil was the guy at the bus stop last time. Remember? Anyway, yeah, just give us inverted commas in the chat if you
We
are
won't
a secret
judge.
control.
We don't
Yep.
judge.
We don't judge. We don't
No.
judge because we're control freaks as well.
Yes. And we've, like the past weeks, I mean, I already shared this with you, Devon, but we ran a whole bunch of experiments, like manual CPC versus cost versus focusing on conversions. And it's, oh God, manual CPC wins every single time, 2 to 8 times lower cost per click. And if it continues like that, we're probably going to start rolling it out towards all accounts, first running it with experiments and then implementing it. So yeah.
Yep, definitely. And for you who don't know, maybe somebody's here and they don't know what even manual CPC is. I'm going to give you guys the short version. We covered this on a lot of our other live streams. I'm just having fun with these comments over here. So Neil Robinson says, yep, control freak. Wendy says, yep, secret control freak over here. Neil Robinson says he's been working on his landing page ever since. For those of you who don't know what he's talking about, we've got a landing page roast. I will make sure that we link it below the description, or I'll link it in the chat. And yeah, you guys can check it out. It was super cool. Thanks, Niels. And but Devon tells me, Google tells me to maximize for this, and it will be cheaper. Yeah, don't worry. We're gonna cover all of recommendations. In fact, that's why I mentioned Pam's recommendation sheet. But the main thing that I want to get to is this: when you choose manual CPC, you get to decide. You, the entrepreneur, the business owner, the marketer, the advertiser, you get to decide how much you are willing to pay for a click. And Google can't try and charge you more. This is the magic sauce. If you had to take my 15-hour Google Ads course and condense it down into 2 minutes, it would just be me telling you, listen, dude, just use manual CPC. You're going to get cheaper leads, and you're not going to waste money on keywords that don't bring in conversions, bring in leads. Now, you're going to find a lot of advice online that tells you the complete opposite. They're going to say, go for maximize conversions. You should be using maximize clicks. You should be using this. You should be using that. In fact, Pam had a very beautiful session with in my private community where she literally showed us the stats of manual CPC bidding versus maximize clicks bidding. And she got how much percent lower were your leads because of that?
Well, the cost per click was lower. The leads were still there. So we had like in one campaign, it was like instead of $9 of average cost per click, it went down to $2.50. And another campaign, instead of like €4 something, it was like 60 cents. So
I'm sorry, say that again, just one more time for the people in the back. How much was it?
So instead of like $9 on average, it went down to $2.50. And instead of a little bit above €4, it went down to 60 cents. And
60 cents per click.
Yes. And the conversions were the same, but they also I think they kept increasing as far as what I remember from those two experiments. And yeah, it's all looking very, very positive that those changes are pretty much, for the sake of word repetition, game changers, where we'll just keep optimizing for that, because you get like 4 to 8 times more clicks out of the same budget. Good traffic, like good keywords, everything properly optimized. You can still track your conversions in the back end, right? Like if you not having bidding for conversions doesn't mean you're not measuring the conversions, right? Like you're still measuring them. You still get all that data.
All right. So Pam, I have a question for you. Let's pretend I'm a business owner and let's look at this ad campaign that I have over here. So what I want to do is I want to share my screen. We're not going to do much, but I'm just going to say, let's say I am looking at my Google ads right now and every day I'm pulling my hair out. I'm wondering, how am I going to pay this advertising bill from Google? I have no money whatsoever. I don't know what to do. And I've only generated like 2 leads, but they cost me $40 each. And my product costs me like $15. How would I make this work?
So you know me, I always say like, let's go back to the roots, right? Let's see if how's your landing page actually performing? How's your landing page set up, right? So if everybody else, like whenever you have your next landing page roast, that's where people should come. You need to look at that first, right? And then I would look at my keywords. I will probably have keywords that have at least like 3 words in them. So work with long tail keywords, and then work with a certain cost per maximize clicks or manual CPC strategy where you set the cost per click a lot lower than what Google shows you it is. Like I've shown before.
Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Why would they tell you that the click is a certain price, but then why would Google do that? I mean,
because they want to make money. They just made a new record revenue last quarter, right? About $84 billion. So they want to make shareholders happy. And it's not like there's so many more advertisers now on Google, like every day. Yes, people are coming to Google, but people are also leaving Google, right? And so for Google to make more revenue, to keep up that growth, the only way to do it is if it pretty much increases the prices for advertisers, right? And it can only do that if it keeps showing you that, hey, you're getting conversions. So Google couldn't just increase the price if you wouldn't get any conversions. So that's why typically you only see that effect when you are measuring conversions, because then Google's like, oh, you're getting conversions. Well, let me have some more share of that. And what then typically happens is what people get to is they hit this plateau and they wonder, hey, why can I not grow? Like every time I increase the budget, I feel like it's getting more expensive. They can't explain it, but literally when you look at how the average cost per click behaves, you will see the reason fairly clearly.
Yeah. I agree with that. I would agree with that 100%. So some of you are saying, well, I know Pam is telling us to focus on basics, but I was hoping for a more complicated answer. Isn't there a certain setting in Google Ads that I could just switch on and then my ads would be cheaper? Isn't there a certain like a 2-minute thing that I can do? And the main thing that I stress on most of my live streams is if you don't know your fundamentals, you're in trouble, right? Let's say, for example, you wanted to become a marathon runner. if you don't know the fundamentals of marathon running, there is no quick hack, there is no Nike or Adidas shoe that is going to get you to the end of the marathon. You have to know the basics. You have to know how to breathe. Have to know how to hydrate yourself. You have to know how to pace yourself. I've never ran a marathon in my life before, but I'm sure all of these things are important.
How to eat.
You Thank you. You need to know what to eat and when not to eat. You need to know all of this sort of stuff. Google Ads is exactly the same. Now, a lot of business owners, what you guys are doing is you want to skip over that stuff and you want to get to the part where you just get the client, because that's what you do. You just want to sell stuff to people. But unfortunately, there are two categories in business. One is called sales, which you are good at. One is called marketing, which most of you are horrible at. And unfortunately, you need to become a better marketer so that the selling becomes easier. If you're a great salesman but a bad marketer, you're going to always struggle to get the client in front of you in the first place.
Yeah, I think these days people just have to get acquainted to not just having a business, but to becoming good at sales and marketing. Like if you're not good at that, then don't have a business. It's the example I always have in my mind is one of my favorite restaurants, and I'm not going to go into detail where it is or what it is. And the owner is amazing at the food. There's one cook and there's, I think, like maybe 10 tables in this restaurant. Like it's really good and it's won like awards, but she's clearly still having times where not all the tables are booked. And she's refusing to update her website because she wants it done for free. Hold
on. She wants her website updated for free.
Yes. Wow. She's refusing to accept advice about Google Maps. She's refusing to accept like advice, for PR and all that. And it's all very simple changes that would take her maybe an hour per week more to do, right? But it would improve the outcomes so much. But she's rather struggling because she wants to do it her way. And she just wants to kind of like force people to follow her way, which I think a lot of business owners try to do, right? They say, oh, look, I have this awesome product. Why are people not buying? Like they should be buying. And there's almost this like resentment and anger towards others. And I think you got to understand that people behave in a certain way. And if you want to make money and sell something, you have to understand how they behave. You have to understand how people make decisions. And it's not like, you put an ad up in Google Ads and people suddenly going to come and buy from you. That's not the case anymore. That's how it used to be maybe 15 years ago when there was almost no competition, way less information. But these days, things have changed so much.
Yeah. If you want to have an exceptional income, an exceptional revenue, and an exceptional conversion rate on your ads, you need to come up with an exceptional ad campaign. That's just how it's going to work, because you're dealing with a whole lot of people who are advertising on the same keyword. Then most of the time, all of them have money. And the only thing that's going to make you stand out is if you work hard on standing out. If you have a landing page, you better have the best landing page, especially if you're the little guy. If you're the small guy and you're fighting against the big guys, you have to make sure that your landing page is 5 times, 10 times better than theirs, because that's how you still get the cheap leads. If you know nothing about Google Ads, you need to absorb every single piece of training on Google Ads there is. You need to come to sessions and you need to really apply yourself, because this is how you're going to differentiate yourself from the bigger players in the market. I'll give you a perfect example of this after I read Wendy's comment. Wendy says, listen to Devon and Pamela, not Google. Think about who has your best interest in mind. Google wants that cash. And that's very, very true. That's extremely true. Now, here's the thing. Whenever you're advertising, whenever you're marketing, if you tell yourself, I'm just going to put the ads in and I'm just going to let them run and see what happens, that's exactly what you're getting. You're literally getting back what you're doing. You're setting the ads up and you're just leaving them. So what happens is Google sees, oh, somebody's leaving these ads. I can charge them $30 per click. I can charge them $20 per click. I can show the ads to wrong people. I can show them. I can show the ads up for the incorrect search results. because the business owner is not paying attention. And most of the business owners don't pay attention. You know why? Because we are so busy trying to do everything in our business that we end up doing nothing well. Nothing well at all.
Yeah, and I think, and we got some questions to get to. I It's almost like you have to be aware of that when you run a business, you're going to wear multiple hats, especially in the beginning. Like I learned how to create websites, how to create copy and all of that. And then as time goes by, as you know how it works, you can delegate it, and you can delegate it effectively, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to highlight is, even though you think, oh, I might be up against big companies, trust me, I've seen big companies waste so much budget. And it's the easiest thing that if you do it well, you can do it. You can succeed. No, even if you have 1/10 of their budget, it doesn't matter. And I'll give you a very concrete example about this. I'm not going to mention the brand because it's a known brand. Everybody knows it's a household name. And they approached me and they were looking for somebody to partner. Well, not partner. No, that's the wrong word. They were looking for somebody to work with their Google rep and implement what the strategy that the Google rep was saying that they should do. And I was like, with all due respect, like, yes, and I would, like, only if they're open to doing things better than what Google says, because 9 out of 10 times, I would recommend you not to follow Google's advice. And I'm not sure, like, if I'm saying a little bit too much here, but the problem is when you work at Google, your performance obviously gets measured by how much money you bring Google, right? Yep. So whatever you're going to recommend to advertisers, there's an interest that I have as an employee at Google, and that's what you got to keep in mind, right? So 9 out of 10 times, what I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to measure. Your company's revenue is not part of my performance assessment in Google. It doesn't matter, right? So I have zero incentive to care, right? Okay, questions. Yeah. Sorry, I rambled on too long.
No. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. It's important that people understand where Google is coming from, because I think a lot of people thinks that, oh, Google is trying to do me a favor by giving me all this AI and giving me all these recommendations, and Google is really trying to help me become a better advertiser, when they don't realize that it's like going to the casino and the casino's trying to teach you to become a better gambler. That's not really going to work out for you, because the casino is going to teach you everything that you shouldn't be doing while playing blackjack, that you shouldn't be doing while playing poker. That's kind of what Google's doing over here. But anyway, let's get into some questions. All right. So MCX says, I think the most difficult part is how to get cheap clicks on a limited volume keyword. And MCX continues to say there are other campaigns that manual CPC is completely not available. So for example, if you want to appear on Gmail, you can't if you don't do conversion tracking and performance max at the same time. I think Demand Gen also has Gmail ads built in. So basically MCX's question is, if I have no search volume or very little search volume on a keyword, how do I still make sure that I'm getting cheap clicks?
So I think, first of all, I wouldn't let myself derail by Google saying there's low search volume. That's the first thing. I would just let the campaign run. And then again, the question is, what is a cheap click for you, right? Is it 10 cents? Is it $10? Is it $5? What is it, right? Like, you got to know what that is. And then see what the average cost per click is. And if you're running only like Performance Max, I would strongly suggest going towards just a search campaign with manual CPC, and you can always run these as experiments, right? So that it's just like a lot, that it's easier for you, that you don't have that much risk, right? If you just run an experiment, you're not like jumping into the cold water and completely changing your campaigns, but you're first getting proof that, hey, the hypothesis that I have actually works, right? Mm-hmm. And the other question I would say is, like, how important is Gmail really for me? Aren't there other ways? There's probably a lot of other ways that I can reach customers, because currently a Gmail campaign doesn't exist anymore. You used to have it, right? But it doesn't exist anymore. So I
used to love them. They were cheap. They were nice. You just run it, put a dollar to it, and forget about it. Yeah.
Because literally in a performance max campaign, like one day it could be up with impressions, the other day it could be down. Like we see this all the time. And you cannot say, hey, I want to allocate 30% towards display, 10% towards Gmail, and whatever, right? So yeah.
It comes back down to control. So Wendy has a question for us over here. She says, legit question here. Why does Google make ads and reporting such a struggle? It is not easy. I don't care how long you work on ads, it's a nightmare. What are some of the things that you do to make your reporting easier, except for sending out less reports, which I know Pamela does? I'm going to tell you guys Pamela's philosophy on reporting, because I think she's got it right.
We send
I
out
think
any,
she's got
don't
it
send
right.
any reports.
This is my point. This is
Yeah,
my
most
point.
people don't read it. They don't care and they have no idea how to interpret it. It's the biggest.
Exactly. You're sending out a 16-page report to a business owner who was too busy, who ended up hiring an agency to run his ads. Do you think he has time to go through the data? Probably not.
Yeah.
This is also why I wish I had met Pam earlier, because I actually did not start an agency because I thought I would have to be doing reporting all the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, do I really want to be sitting in front of a spreadsheet the whole day and trying to figure out if this campaign did this or did that and how to explain it to the end user? So yeah, definitely. So with all of that being said, how do we help Wendy out when it comes to reporting, and what are some of the easy things that you can report on that isn't going to like eat all of your time up?
So to address this question, thank you, Wendy. I would love to know, what are you struggling with in terms of reporting? Like what do you find a struggle? And then I can talk a little bit more towards that. Some of my friends are still the engineers behind the campaigns that you're using. And again, I think as a little preface, these are engineers. They're not marketers, right? So there's a certain friction, I think, within Google of like a communication of like, hey, what does the end consumer actually need? And what are we building here? And I think there's kind of like a person missing that connects these dots, right? I can have conversations with them, but again, that's not enough, right? So there's this, everybody has their own role and they need to make sure they fulfill their work. I always say Google Ads was probably a little bit built as like by engineers for engineers. So I think for me, it's a matter of getting used to. I'm just used to it by now because it's been such a long time. But I do understand, like in almost every single time, whether I teach classes at universities or I let clients set up new campaigns, there's 3 different tabs that show campaigns. And I always have to campaign, like a campaign, know that campaign, you know? So there's so many different buttons, and the new interface that came into play like 2 years ago now didn't necessarily help. It just shifted things. So yeah, usability is not the main strength, and I think it's not because Google isn't seeing a difference in people's use of Google Ads. If they would see that the use goes down when the interface changes, they would change something, right? Yeah, Google is set up this way because there's too many different products to make it easier to manage these products. Like Google Ads is a product, right? Google Analytics is a product. Google Search
Tag
Console.
manager. Yep.
Tag manager, right? So Google Ads is like the biggest revenue machine, and then you have organic. And so that's going to be different from each other because not everybody who uses Search Console uses ads and vice versa, even though vice versa, it should be the way. And yeah, Google Analytics 4 is a mess. It's a mess. Like I still discover in some accounts, and I sent you a screenshot, I think last week, where I was like, I was missing like 4 or 5 buttons in an account. I was like, what the heck? Like, where did this go? Right. So yeah.
Would you say that Google is a victim of its own success, in that it has so much to do that if they're busy working on Gmail, then the ads platform is going to lag behind. If they're working on Tag Manager, then this platform, like, do you think there's too much work? Or what? Or is it just there are so many ways that communication can be broken, and it's just an engineer versus the end user, and the engineers are always busy working on what they think is important, whereas the end user has completely different goals?
So where I see a big correlation in the past 2 years is where people started kicking out, where Google started kicking out people. And then they started outsourcing certain things to people that are engineers, but not as qualified in certain thinking processes as the engineers that they kicked out. Right? So they're like, oh, we want to look at how to make things cheaper, increase the profit, but not understanding that I cannot always outsource things. Like, yes, you can hire people for a fraction in some places in the world than they are in San Francisco or in New York or London or whatever. But also their thinking processes are very different culturally, the way they grew up, the way the education system is, right? So when you hire a person for a certain job role, what I almost never see being measured for is, does that person actually think a step ahead? Can the person work well on their own? Does the person have a little bit of an idea of usability? Does the person seek initiative to like get feedback from the outside and so on, right? Like one thing I did early on for like campaigns is I talked with all kinds of people, friends, family, whatever, what they thought about that, because I wanted to get people's opinions that were not involved in it to give me a feel of whether, you know, they would understand the ad, whether it would resonate with them.
Yeah.
And so that's not incentivized where the work got outsourced to. And it is like, I can see this so clearly because I know how the communications run in these countries and like other places. So I don't think that firing so many people and some of their best people was a good idea.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Steph is just saying hi. She's popping in for a little bit, and she's also got a question for us, and I think this one is directed to you. So Steph is asking, what is best practice to set up keywords in different phrases, and how do you split the phrases into different ad groups? Or I think what she means by "or" is like, what is just the best practice for testing different phrases, phrase matches? Before we even get into that, this is exactly, just to touch on what Pam says, is once again the technical aspects of Google Ads, right? We keep on coming down to the technical aspects of Google Ads. I feel kind of weird being a Google Ads expert and having 200 videos on Google Ads, because I give people very simple answers when people are looking for very complicated things. So I'll give you an example. Most of the time when a campaign is not performing, Steph, this is not an answer to your question. We are going to answer your question, but I just want to take this tangent because I think it's important for us to discuss this stuff now. When you look at your landing page, when you look at your ad copy, when you look at your messaging, that is usually, put this on the screen, that is usually 90% of the problem. Going away from broad match, phrase match, we can go away from your bidding strategy and your settings and stuff like that. You have to be able to look at your ad from the outside in. And it goes back to that engineer at Google that, or the engineers at Google, where Pam was discussing, where they're so busy focused on what they're doing, they don't understand how it affects the end user. I feel like a lot of business owners are doing that as well, where we're so busy. Oh, should I be using this strategy, or should I be using broad match, or should I be using this setting or that setting? Settings are important, guys, but you're never going to get a 30% increase in your cost, decrease in your cost per conversion or your cost per leads just with settings if everything is set up fine already. You can test it, you might, but you're going to find the easy wins, the really easy wins. You're going to find them in your landing page, in your ad copy, and in your messaging. Pam, do you want to add anything before we go over to Steph's question?
Yeah, and then in the meantime, Steph, if you could give me an example, so because I feel like I'm not yet completely sure what you mean. The one thing that I noticed again today is where I was chatting with a new client about, you know, how we do meetings, and typically we do meetings with clients either once a week or once every 2 weeks. And sometimes it's also only once a month, depending on how it works best. And in the contract, I put, oh, you know, it's like bi-weekly, but it's pretty much the frequency is up to the clients and the agency's needs, right? And we've never had any issues with that. We keep it flexible. And I know a lot of people are super, super picky with that. Like, we only have a meeting once every 2 weeks. If you want to have a meeting every week, you pay more, and so on. And regulating that is so much more headache that I've removed that friction completely, and I've seen it just doesn't matter. Because if you are aligned on a common goal, you will easily find a solution that works for the client and you, right? So I think sometimes you just got to take a step back and see what's the overall vision. And maybe I'm getting too hung up on the details here, right? So
yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. All right, while we're waiting for Steph, what I want you guys to know is we have a couple of sponsors, so I think this is a good time just to bring that up. So what I want to do is I just want to give a special shout out to, number one, our Google Ads course, Profitable PPC. A lot of people in the comment section are Profitable PPC members. I appreciate y'all, and I want to thank you so much for your support. Also, I truly believe that this is one of the best Google Ads courses. If you want to learn how to get your ads profitable in less than 30 days, make sure you check it out. It is linked in the description below. I'm also going to link it in the chat as well. And also a special shout out to Lead Pages. Now, when you're running ads, you generally want to run an ad to a landing page and not to a website. Why? Because what a landing page does is it gets the client or the person who clicked on your ads to focus on the goal or the action they should be taking. A lot of times what we're doing is we're running all of these leads, we send it to this big complicated website, and we think that, oh, because I know my website like the back of my hand, so the person visiting my website for the first time will kind of find their way around and they'll find exactly what they want. Doesn't work that way. Most of the times you're going to lose leads because you're not using a landing page and you're just using a website and hoping that they find the right section that matters for them. So check out Lead Pages. It's a very cheap solution to the problem. They've got hundreds of templates that you can choose from, and you can just put your service in without having to spend the next 3 weeks or 7 weeks designing a brand new landing page and trying to figure it out by yourself. So that's what I want to mention right now. All right, cool. So Wendy over here, this is a perfect, Wendy, please let them know I didn't pay you to give this comment. So Wendy says, thank goodness for Profitable PPC and the landing page roast. Yeah, a lot of people enjoyed that landing page roast. I'm going to tell you, even people who don't use Google Ads, Keenan, I think, he logged in and he absolutely loved it. He said he was learning web design from us. He's studying web design, and he said he learned so much on that live stream about what good web design is and what bad web design is. So yeah, thank God for the landing page roast.
Yeah, it's like, somebody asked me yesterday, it's like, oh, so how do you create the landing pages, right? Like, how do you find a developer who does it? I'm like, it's not just a developer. It is a developer. It is somebody who designs the landing page and then
copywriter. Yep.
And you cannot find everything in one person. Like, challenge me by this, please, and show me one person who sets up all these things perfectly themselves. It's almost impossible, right? So it's absolutely normal to have help with that.
Yeah, definitely. And the one thing I want you guys to remember when it comes to landing pages, Steph just said the second part of a question, but Neil said he enjoyed you didn't enjoy the landing page roast. Well, you're back here, Neil. So I guess whatever we said, it might not have been it might not have been the best, but it was good medicine.
He likes pain. He likes pain.
Thank you. Maybe you're a pain addict. Maybe that's why you keep on coming back. Chucky also came back after that, so maybe Chucky likes pain as well. But hey, we're only going to give you the truth on this live stream. We're not going to sugarcoat things. We're going to tell you exactly what it is. If it's up to scratch and you can make money with the page, we're going to tell you yes. If you can't really make money with the page, definitely not. So Neil says no comment on the pain addict stuff. So yeah.
He's a secret pain addict. He's not a secret control freak. He's a secret pain addict.
We're watching you, Neil. We know you. Oh, yeah, he is. Oh, my gosh. I just mentioned this guy, Chucky. I love pain. Oh, man. Okay, let's get back to business over here. All right, so to get back to Steph's question, she was asking about best practices when setting up a broad match, phrase match, and how do you split them up and basically test them, or do you split the phrases into different ad groups? So basically, her question was, this is the summary. If you have your keyword list, do you run them with different phrases, split into different ad groups, and do similar keywords affect your campaign negatively? That's
I
the
think
interesting.
no, so it shouldn't be the same keyword, right? So you shouldn't enter the same keyword. Um, do you mean different keyword phrases? Because I want to have different keyword phrases, but I would group them together in similar meanings into one ad group.
So, in other words, if you have a restaurant and you have a campaign for pizza, you want to put everything related to pizza, all those keywords in one ad group. Am I with you? Now the
Yes, and pasta
question
and another one.
exactly. Now I'm going to play a little bit of a interpreter over here. I guess the question that Steph's trying to ask is, when should you really experiment with your phrase match and broad match? Should you switch everything over at the same time, do it broad and do it for a week, and then switch everything over back to phrase and do it for a week? How do you test those, and how do you know like what's working?
So, I mean, you can always set up an experiment, right? Where you just like run part of the campaign on broad match and the other part on phrase match. Um, Typically, I would want to get a few weeks of data in order to really make a decision there. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'm getting the full question, but that's
Yeah,
what I would do.
yeah. It's kind of a rough question, Steph, but luckily for you, you did have time with Pam in the private coaching call in our community. So I think you've got your money's worth. I'm going to ask you to ask a different question, or maybe just write that question in the private community. For those of you who don't know, we also have a private community where we do coaching sessions like this every single week. When I say we, I mean I. I do it every single week. And basically, we look at your ads, we give you advice, and we help you optimize your ads. So if you want, you can join that. I'll put the link in the chat. It's called the Feedback Circle, and it's a really amazing, um, it's an amazing place to be. All right, Pam, do you want to handle this question while or
Yes.
comment while I just get that link?
So yes, you can set up a separate campaign, but I think in the beginning I would just put each one in a separate ad group in one campaign just for simplicity purposes. And then you can see how each one of these ad groups and segments perform, given that they each have like equal business value for you, right? Typically, each of these sections will have a different business value for you. So you might see that, oh, my water ad group is getting all the traffic, but actually fire is the one that's a bit more important for me. Well, then I would put fire into a separate campaign and keep water, mold, and storm in one campaign, and then see how that works, right?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Another thing that you guys must also keep in mind, and Pam, I'm going to ask you just to put the link for your optimization, for your recommendation sheet. Would you mind putting that in the chat as well? Or you can even send it to me and I'll put it in the chat if you can't see the chat on your side. Another thing that I want you guys to also keep in mind is testing. Pam said this in the private coaching call and it really stuck with me. The best marketers are testing all the time, literally all the time. And Wendy says, thank you, Pam, by the way. The best marketers are testing all the time. So I think a lot of people approach Google Ads like just set it and forget it, or they try and make one big change. And if the big change doesn't work out, they get scared and then they try and get their ads back to the way they were. You always need to be testing. You got to test new stuff. This is crazy. I see this all the time in my private community as well. There are people who are addicted to search ads. Now, what do I mean by addicted to search ads? You think that search ads are the only way on earth that you're going to produce leads. It's not true. You can produce leads with performance, well, not good leads with Performance Max. You can produce leads with video ads. You can produce leads with display ads. You can produce leads with retargeting ads. But if you don't know how to run those ads, and if you don't play around a little bit, and if you don't experiment, you're never going to get the good stuff. I want to show you guys something. Let me show you this. This is very important.
By the
I'm
way,
gonna
I
show you.
can't post the link, so you're gonna have to do that for me, please.
Okay, fantastic. If you could email that to me, I'm going to make sure that that's in the chat.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to show you guys something, right? This campaign over here, I've got, as you can see, that little video camera over here. I've got a search campaign, I've got a YouTube campaign, and I've got a YouTube campaign. The search campaign cost per lead $20. Conversion rate 12%. Thank God. That's a very good conversion rate. But I only got 2 leads from this campaign and 2 very expensive leads. Now let's look at the YouTube one. Remember, this is to produce leads. This is going to English speaking countries abroad, Western democracies, basically, first world countries. As you can see, my cost per lead, this is a YouTube ad. I'm getting leads for $13 each. Now, I want to show you something crazy. I want to show you what the same campaign with the same ads is doing in South Africa. I'm getting leads for 62 cents in South Africa. And I got 10 leads, and I got 10 leads with $6. This is why I say you guys are like, yes, search campaigns, all of the questions in the chat, search. Why are you sleeping on YouTube ads? I want somebody in the comment section to give me a very good reason why you haven't used YouTube ads or tried YouTube ads, at least for lead generation. I'd be very interested to hear what you guys say. And I wanted to show you guys the evidence. All right. So let me get that link. Pam, you can have a chat to the camera while I do that. Pam, you're on mute, by the way.
Thank you. Sorry. So still happens after more than 10 years of working online. So a lot of times we tend to fuss over, keywords or like details, small details, again, where I want to tell people like zoom out, right? Like what's the big picture? What are you trying to achieve? I think as business owners, and I recently hosted this meetup where one of the business owners literally said, like, I don't take time for myself to review my goals, to look at what do I actually want. Because I think it's so easy to get caught up in the daily doing and just hopping from one meeting to another, getting those clients, doing those campaigns, that I would really encourage you, like, set aside some time in your calendar and think about, what do you want? Do you actually want to be good at Google Ads, or do you wish somebody would just run them for you, right? Do you actually want to dive into metrics and, look at that once a week or more often, depending on how big your account is? Or do you wish you just take 5 minutes every week because somebody tells you the numbers, right? So, like, be clear on what you want, and then that will also guide your Google Ads vision, your Google Ads campaigns, and so on, right? But if you're spending, like, if you're a typical small business and you're spending more than an hour and a half every week on your campaigns, you're doing something wrong. Like, you're fussing over details that don't matter, right? Thank you for posting the link. So I'm always a big fan of like the 80-20 principle, right? What are the 20% of my work that bring me 80% of the results? And that's what you got to focus on. And you'll only be able to see that when you step back from the problem. Because when we see things too often and too much, we don't see the forest for the trees anymore, right? Now you're muted.
Oh my gosh, that never happens to me.
Thank God I'm not the only one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess we're all human at the end of the day.
Yeah.
People are always surprised when I tell them I spend less than 15 minutes in my Google Ads, and I technically don't even pay attention to my search terms report, and I technically don't even really spend time adding negative keywords. And they're like, why aren't you bothered by your negative keywords? I'm like, I am very bothered by my negative keywords. I don't like my ads showing up in the wrong places, but I understand that the most important thing is to control your cost per click. If Google shows me up for the wrong search term and I only spent 50 cents for that click, I'm fine. I'll live. I'm okay. But if I end up spending $5 for the wrong search, showing up on the wrong search and getting the wrong click, I'll be very angry. So what I tend to do is I tend to focus more on how much I pay for my clicks than anything else. And what I also do and have a strong emphasis on is just my creative assets. Now, I'll show you, I don't think I have a side-by-side comparison over here, but we've done tests before where we've taken a YouTube ad, and we've taken a YouTube ad that wasn't edited and it wasn't scripted, and then we ran it against a YouTube ad where the editing was just a little bit better and it was just following a script. And we've seen a dramatic difference, like a 50% difference in our cost per lead, just by making sure that we're saying the right things at the right time during a YouTube ad, right? This has got nothing to do with optimization whatsoever. It's just me saying something in a different order that makes a lot more sense. And then what we've done is we've taken that same YouTube ad, we've improved it again, and we've asked people to actually click within the first 30 seconds of the YouTube ad. So the YouTube ad would start off with something like, hey, I'd love to invite you to my 100 leads workshop. Please click on the link below or click on the button on your screen now so that you can attend. Let me tell you a little bit more about it, and then I continue on with the ad. Just by adding that early call to action, we've actually seen our click-through rates sometimes increase by 50%. I don't want to say double, but it's been close to double. So we've seen the same thing with ad copy. Sometimes you can have a great ad, it's just not well written out. A lot of business owners, I don't know where they get this from, but a lot of business owners, they think that Google Ads is SEO, and so they have to keyword stuff their headlines. I get this all the time. What is it? Guys. Okay, so a little bit of a rant.
It comes right after an agency saying, we do search engine marketing. And then
There we go.
like Google Ads and SEO in one sentence. And I'm like, this is disaster waiting to happen and unfold.
All right. So I'm going to set the record straight on this podcast. If you have an ad, you have to write it for a human being to read. It is not SEO. It is completely not SEO. You do not need to keyword stuff your ad headlines and descriptions to get people to click on your ads. If someone is a human being and you want them to click on your ad, the best chance you're going to have of somebody clicking on your ad is speaking to them like they're actually a human being. See what I'm saying? Rudy says over here, thanks for joining us, Rudy. Let us know where you're from. He says, it's copywriting, guys. There we go. It's copywriting. That's all it is. We've seen some amazing improvements just by taking all of that keyword stuffing garbage and just putting real sentences like that, like a human being would be interested in. Like maybe you have over 100 5-star reviews on Google, mention it. Pam actually dropped a very dope piece of advice in the private coaching call where she mentioned that if you take a testimonial from like your Google reviews or you Google My Business and you just put the testimonial in the description of your ad, you're actually going to have a higher click-through rate. Stuff like that. Pam, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, and one book I can recommend here is it's called Copywriting Secrets, and I even just gifted that to one of my team members because I was like, read that. And he said one of the biggest insights for him is that that we should use less we, because he was using that often in like copy, which I already shared with him before, and more like, hey, what's the benefit for the user, right? Like, what does John want? What does John do? What's the pain point of John, right? What's his challenges, and so on, right? So typically, if you write more than twice we in an ad, you need to change something. But again, the cheapest way for you to get an improvement here is get that book and read through it. Trust me, it's going to make a major impact on your campaigns, even if you've never done copywriting.
Yeah. And as you can see, we've done a perfect circle back to what I was saying at the beginning of this podcast, which was podcast live stream. What? It's both. It feels like both. Okay. As you can see, we've done a perfect circle back to what I was saying in the beginning, which is fundamentals. You cannot get away from fundamentals. If you have a landing page, on that landing page, you need words and you need somebody who's good with words, which goes back to what Rudy was saying, that you need copywriting. If you have somebody building and guys, let's just be serious here. All of us go to Fiverr, we go to Upwork, we hire guys from India, Bangladesh, they can barely speak English, they're speaking broken English, and then we want them to write good wording for our landing pages. Are you crazy? Are you absolutely crazy?
I I see that, and then like I've shared that with people, and some of them are surprised. They're like, "This is the first time somebody gave me this feedback. I've never heard it in my 10 years of careers." I'm like, "Yeah, because it matters, and I care about you learning that, so I will communicate it to you, and you have to use Grammarly. And if you don't use it, then I'm not going to work with you." I use Grammarly because English is not my first language, right? So like, it's like, yes, again, you can get services for cheaper, but there's another price tag that comes with it usually.
Yeah. So Wendy's asking, what was the name of that book again?
I'm adding it here. I'm not getting any
Wow.
commission for that or something, right? So,
Oh man, no affiliate income for us, but it's okay.
yeah, but it's. I think credit where credit is due. I think it's one of the few books in marketing that are still relevant, and that will probably still be relevant for a long time.
I also want to add a recommendation, guys. Just give me a sec. Let me get it. I've got the hard copy.
Do it. Do it. We'll wait here for you.
Cue the
By the way,
elevator music.
soon. I have another call.
Okay, no problem. As you can see over here, I don't know if you guys can see it.
Move it up, up, up.
There we go. It's Zag by Martin Neumeyer, right? This book is amazing. And also, he talks about what you need to do to stand out in your business. And he kind of gives you a very high level overview. And there's a lot there that helps you with your ad copy as well. Now,
Show it
what
again.
we're going to do.
Show it again.
Are you-
What's the name? Let me put it in the chat here for people.
Okay, cool. Let's do it again.
I want to see the name. Martin. Oh, Neumeier. Say Neumeier.
Is that Austrian?
Oh, Marty, not Martin. Whoops.
Marty Neumeyer. Zags. Z-A-G.
Okay.
Love it, love it, love
Neumeier
it.
is
Okay.
a German name. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to end the live stream in about 3 minutes or 6 minutes or so. What I want to do is I want to give you guys the final chance to ask any questions. I'm going to answer as much as I can. Pam might need to jump off, but I want to just, I want to close us out, and I want to make sure that we answered as many questions as possible. I don't want it just to be two people talking about books the whole time. I want to make it inclusive, but the books are to help you guys anyway. So technically speaking, it's fine. All right. Chucky, yes, my friend. Would you recommend having a separate landing page with relevant headlines for every ad group if your ad groups have different theme keywords? Dope question. All right. So, do you want to take this or can I take this?
Go for it.
Okay. So let's say you have a bakery and your bakery sells donuts and your bakery sells custom-made cakes and your bakery also sells biscuits. Because those are three different products, right? And they kind of don't mingle. You want to have a different landing page for each. Now, where this gets a little bit iffy is when you have a product that kind of it cuts into the other product. So for example, if you have I'm trying to think of two things that match, but if you have a product that kind of has an upsell and another upsell, then you can put everything on one landing page. But it's always best practice to take, and this is how you do it. Before you go out there and make 16 different landing pages, because I know a lot of you guys go out there and make 16 different landing pages. This is what I tell my students. Look at your product suite. Take the two products that make you 80% of the revenue and build landing pages for each of those two products or two services and start running ads with those. Once that starts working, you can go to the third thing that generates the most revenue in the business. But don't go out there and build 20 different landing pages. The most important thing is to have effective landing pages for 80% of your revenue producing activities. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to focus in on those and make them better and better, and know that you're not wasting time designing a landing page when this thing is like 0.05% of your income in your business. Chucky, let me know if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think just, also like when these two landing pages don't work, like don't just build two more. Improve the landing pages. Like I think a lot of times we discard things way too quickly before actually we improve things, testing different button colors, adding testimonials, changing images, and so on, right? So like having a good landing page can be an iteration process of a couple of months if you run
Yeah.
traffic towards it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, and I think that's about it. I want to thank each and every single one of you for coming to the live stream. We had fun, didn't we, Pam?
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to put the links for everything that we discussed today down below. That's my course. That's Pam's recommendation guide. That's lead pages. You can find them all in the description of this video. Thank you so much, each and every single one of you, for signing in on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube. And what we're also going to do is on the channel, we've got a big playlist of all of our live streams. So in case you missed one, you can just select the playlist and you can watch all of them. And what I'll do is I'll link it down below as well. Wendy says, thank you both. Thank you so much, Wendy. We appreciate you. And yeah, we are out. We will see you next time. Peace.
See ya. Bye.